I'm back. Welcome back. Good morning to everybody that's watching. Getting the setup here so I can see your comments. Happy holidays for everybody that's still celebrating, everybody that's still getting yourself together. Uh, Let me see here. Here we go. All right, let's mute that. Get everybody time to jump on here a second. All right. Christoph, what's up, man? I'm back, man. I am back. So yeah, been a busy last few weeks, but yeah, I'm back, man, and I wanted to be sure I jumped on this morning, man, and shared a little bit. All right, let's see here. Y'all know the deal. Just let me know where you're watching from. There you go, Springfield. France. Trinidad, yes. All right. Kenya, Nigeria. Cool stuff. South Africa. Man, y'all are making me want to travel. Y'all are really making me want to travel right now. Come visit all of those places, man. Germany, South Africa, Nigeria, Kenya, Trinidad, France, even Springfield, Illinois. Y'all are making me really want to travel. Zambia, Cameroon, Dubai. Should really come to Trinidad. I would love it. I know I would love it. Cape Town, South Africa, England, Manchester. Yep, I know I would love it, man. I would fly you here myself. Don't play with me, man. I'll be out there next week. Who else we got? We're in Cameroon. Okay. Yeah, a lot of Africans in here today, man. I love it. So I'm getting back in the saddle with kind of going through some of my stuff, some of my music. I've been listening to my own music lately, something that I don't do enough of. I guess that's the thing, not listening to your own music enough. But yeah, I've been just tune my bass flat. It's not as hard as I thought. No, it's not as hard, man, Steve. Once you kind of get comfortable with it, it's for me. I was just like you. I was scared to make the adjustment, but once I made the adjustment, it started making sense to me pretty quickly, and I adjust back and forth on a regular, so I know the fretboard both flat and standard. So once you kind of do that pretty consistently, the only thing it can affect, it's like sometimes depending on the bass, it can affect like the intonation and something like that. So you got to be really careful with that. But if your bass can handle it, go for it, man. I do it all the time. I have to tune standard for teaching purposes, but I'm tuned flat normally when I play my own music. Tyrone, good morning, man. Uh, yes, sir. So, like I said, I was trying to. I've been listening to my own music and just appreciating my own stuff. That's not my topic today. My topic is don't give up. It's possible, but I've been just listening back to my own music lately. I have. If you don't know, if you guys don't know, do me a huge favor and go to my page and listen to my music. I have it all here. I would tell you to buy it, but I know cats ain't really buying music anymore. People are streaming everything. So either way, if you're gonna stream it, just do me a favor and make a playlist and play it as much as you possibly can on YouTube. So at least I get your I get your streams. But I have several albums available, and I'm not just necessarily plugging the records, but I do want you to hear the music. You guys hear the teaching and stuff all the time, but I want you to hear it in context. My very first album that I did was The Journey Continues, and I would talk about my album without anything to show you guys. But my very first album that I did was The Journey Continues. Let's see if I can pull it up here on the computer while I'm talking. But yeah, the very first album was the Journey Continues. I'm gonna go to my website and see if I can pull some of this stuff up really quick, so you can at least have an idea what to look for. Excuse me talking here as I go to my website. Let's see. Let's find it. Music. Where's the music? All right, here we go. Here we go. All right, so here we go. I'm gonna turn this around so you guys can see it. There it is. There's the turnaround option. All right, so you see that my very first album was The Journey Continues, right there. That was the very first album that I started with in 2011. A lot of really cool music on that record there. My second follow-up album to that was, if I don't get it out of order, I think was I'm Not Afraid. It was a vocal EP. So I did the vocal EP. It's only about 4 songs. Yeah, they're on everywhere, man. Everywhere CeeLo, everywhere music is sold online, all digital platforms. They're available on all digital platforms. So I did I'm Not Afraid as a like a gospel vocal EP. So I'm singing on that one. All right, so it's like 3 or 4 songs there, and then Soul Street Revisited. These two came out, I think, the same year. Soul Street Revisited is what I did with my band, my first band single, the Jermaine Morgan Band. If you look that up, I have a different drummer there. That's my first drummer, Carrington Green. Will is still with me. My drummer, Carrington, he ended up moving away. But yeah, so that's my first record with those guys. But funny thing is, most of these guys are on all of my records. Like Carrington, everything except for my last record, Carrington has been on. He's on the Grooves and Ideas album. He's on the Life record. And then my other friend, Darius Fant, the drummer that's here on the Jermaine Morgan Band record here, Dreams Work Reality, he's also been on all my records. So people think I got like something new, but it's actually the same people. It's just went from one drummer to another drummer consistently, and both of these guys are still friends of mine. Great guys, great, phenomenal drummers. But yeah, so needless to say, Grooves and Ideas was the next thing, was the mixtape, and there is a volume 2 for this that will be coming. I gotta finish it. Life record, I think that's most people's introduction to me, because a lot of the contest and all that kind of stuff was based off of this record, the Say It With Your Strings contest. So a lot of people know about the Life record, Daydreaming single. I'm gonna play a little bit of that today, and that's from the Dreams Work Reality record that's here, the current record that's out. And so that's a part 1 record, which is a part 2 coming. So as you guys can see, I have a lot of music to finish. Funny thing, Dreams Work Reality Part 2 is basically 90% finished. I just haven't released it. Yeah, so if you guys get a chance, check out some of the music. So all that I said, all that to say, I've been listening to my own music and just kind of going back and studying myself, because I tell you guys all the time you have to record yourself, and I've recorded myself, and sometimes I don't go back and listen to my own music. But I've been doing that a lot lately, and listening to one of my songs that gave me the title for today, the daydreaming song, "Don't Give Up on Your Dreams, 'Cause It's Possible." That's in the song. That's in the lyrics of the song. So, yeah, we're gonna talk about that a little bit today. Let me see some comments I missed. Maybe Jermaine, you don't know there is a school in Cameroon for bass player. A school meaning a lot of place where battles between bass players. There are battles between bass players. Am I right, Frank? No, I didn't know that. I did not know that. I'm still learning the world, if you will. But yeah, so that's cool, man. I'd love to check it out. That's where Richard Bona is from, right? If I'm not mistaken, Frank. That's same place, right? I'm almost positive that it is. And surely you guys know who Richard Bona is. If you don't, look him up. Do it now. But yeah, I wanted to jump on here and I wanted to play through this song. I was, again, listening to my music, and from time to time I have to go back and work through this stuff, because I write these ideas. God give me these ideas. I write them, I record them, and a lot of times I forget them, so I have to go back and learn this stuff. So I'm gonna play through a little bit of this, get my fingers warmed on up this morning. Yeah, so let me know what you think about it. I don't know what that dream is that you have. I don't care how disappointing it might have been as you've been working toward that dream. But here's what I know. That dream that you're holding in your mind, that it's possible. It's possible. y'all hear the trumpet because it's an amazing solo by my guy Melvin Jones. So I'm sorry for the groove. Don't give up on the dreams, cause it's possible. Don't give up on the dreams, cause it's possible. Don't give up on the dreams, cause it's possible. Don't give up on the dreams, cause it's possible. Hopefully you guys got the message. All right, who's that? You need to teach us tritones. Wow. So we'll see about that. Thank you, Tyrone. Tyrone says very nice and mellow. Yeah, man, I wanted to do, if any of you guys are familiar with any of my music, this song feels a lot like a song, a very, very popular song that I did called No Words. And I wanted to do kind of like a follow up to No Words, but this time have words with a positive message, because many of you don't know, but I started traveling around a few years ago to schools doing something called Music Matters. And I started sharing with students and encouraging them about music. Well, it started about music. I started with me traveling to the school. I was traveling to band programs and sharing with kids about the importance of music. And then it changed, and I started visiting special needs children at the schools. Like the following year, I started doing the special needs. And man, this is, I don't know how I'm here, but it is what it is. But it was one of the most rewarding experiences, being able to share music with the kids, especially the ones who normally are forgotten about. So if any of you guys have special needs kids, yeah, it was really an honor to be able to share with those kids. And one thing I noticed, that the song that I had, No Words, anytime I played that song, especially with the kids, it would immediately grab their attention. The song, I mean, it just, for some reason, something about that song they seem to love. And so I wanted to do something, a follow-up song, a lot, that felt like No Words, but I actually had words to it, and it was a very encouraging message with the song. The voice that you hear talking over that song is motivational speaker Les Brown, just saying, whatever you've been dreaming about, whatever you've been holding in your mind, those thoughts, all those ideas, it's possible. You just can't give up on it. And oftentimes we'll find ourselves in the midst of whatever we're going through, especially being musicians. You get frustrated if you're new to the journey, or if you've been on the journey for a while and things seem like they haven't quite picked up, haven't quite taken off for you. It's easy to get frustrated and just quit and decide, this is not for me, this is not going to work. And sometimes you just have to dig a little bit deeper. That's really the message of the song, not just to musicians, but to anybody that's listening. You gotta hold that stuff in your mind. You gotta hold um, that thought, hold on to that dream, hold on to that idea while you're working, because sometimes you can be working towards something, and when you seem like you're not making enough progress, you'll start kind of veering off and getting into the norm of your everyday mundane life, because this thing seems like it's not going to happen. And this is just to encourage you to hold on to whatever that is in your mind and keep working on it and keep working towards it, because it's possible. One of my favorite verses is, it says, now unto him that's able to do exceeding abundantly above all that we can ask or think or imagine, according to the power that's working inside of us. It's like, man, that always blows my mind when I think about that verses. If you want to know what that is, that's in the Bible, Ephesians 3:20. Um, that scripture always blows my mind, and it's an honest thing for me in my own life, because everything that I've imagined myself doing to this point, it's always exceeded. God always finds some type of way to exceed whatever it is I'm thinking about and outdo me. So I'm like, okay, if I can imagine this, if I can see myself doing this, or if I can imagine myself long enough and hold on to whatever that thought is, he can exceed it. And he has done it over and over and over and over again. It's just those times when you're in that limbo of waiting, that waiting period that nobody likes, that those are the times you want to quit. Those are the times you think, it's not gonna happen. So I need to go and do this, or I need to go and do that. I need to give up on this thing because I'm just wasting my time spinning my wheels. If you can manage to hold on to whatever that dream is, and I don't mean, the name of the song is Daydreaming. The name of this particular song is on the Dreams Work Reality record, or you can look up Daydreaming, the single, either one. But the name of the song is Daydreaming. And I know a lot of people talk about daydreaming in a negative sense, but who decided that it was not okay to keep daydreaming? Now, I'm not saying you can't put no work to it. Now, you do have to put some work to it, but it's important. I'm finding the older I get, and I'm 37 now, by the way, but the older I get, it's important for me to keep daydreaming. And what I mean by that is I have to keep my visions in front of me. I have a vision, goals, list that I write down, but it's important for me to daydream about that vision. It's important for me to imagine, what if this happened? What if that happens? Because once I daydream, this is something, it might sound like a whole bunch of hogwash to a lot of you guys, but for me, this is some stuff in my own life. When I daydream about it, when it shows up, I recognize it, if that makes any sense. Because I'm thinking about these things that I have in my mind, and now I'm starting to picture them. Now they're getting out of a what if scenario, and I'm actually playing it out in my mind how I want to see it happen. And so now I'm visualizing it. I'm conceptualizing it, for lack of better words. And so once I see these things, when they finally show up, it's like, yeah, that's exactly what I saw. Because you got to have some type of idea. You got to have some type of blueprint. Your daydream is your blueprint for what you want your life to look like. You can write the vision, you can make it plain, but you also have to keep that vision in front of you. You have to have something that you can see, and you have to stimulate your brain. You have to stimulate your imagination. Going back to that verse, now unto him that's able to do exceeding abundantly above anything that I can ask, think, or imagine. That means I have to activate my imagination to see something bigger than what I currently see. Same thing when it comes to your playing. If you're seeing yourself being a really, really great musician, you have to imagine what that looks like. You have to imagine, you have to even hear yourself, what it sounds like in your head. I remember it was probably around 2008. I started listening to Hadrian Farad. That's when he first started kind of getting big at the NAMM shows, and everybody was finding out about him. And I was listening to other bass players before then, but something about him kind of gave me a benchmark, so to speak, of a place that I'm like, man, I could see myself doing something like that. Not copying him or anything like that. But it gave me something to reach for beyond the stuff I had been listening to up until that point. And it's not like, again, it's not that I started copying anything that he was doing, but it started making me stretch myself, and I started looking at what was possible for me. Um, Somebody, and I'll get to that question, CeeLo, and the other questions that you guys are dropping. I'm definitely going to answer your questions as best I can. But yeah, it makes me started reevaluating what's possible for me on my instrument, because you'll find certain players that resonate with you. Some of you guys, it might be Victor Wooten. Some of you guys might be Marcus Miller or Jocko or anybody, any bass player. It might be a gospel bass player. It doesn't matter the genre. It's just you find that person that resonates with you. And when you see that or you hear that, imagine yourself doing it. Imagine yourself what it sounds like if you were to do it. You know what I'm saying? And it's, he said it's you. So, man, to God be the glory. You know what I'm saying? You imagine yourself sounding like whatever that is, whatever that benchmark, whatever that goal is. See yourself doing it. If you want to play on a big stage, if you want to play on a huge stage, see yourself doing it. I know I'm giving y'all a lot of stories, but I'm hoping to encourage you by sharing my own real life stories. It's not a whole bunch of just make-believe fairy tale stuff. I remember in 2002, I want to say, maybe 2002, 2003, a friend of mine, one of my best friends, is actually playing in the band, Darius Fant, that plays the drums with me. A friend of ours, a mentor of ours, James Judon, took us to a concert in Birmingham, Alabama at the Boutwell Auditorium. Fred Hammond was on tour, and I think he had like Maurice Fitzgerald and Calvin Rogers was playing with him back then. I don't remember all the band. I think it's Joey Woolfolk on guitar, and y'all can look all these people up. Daniel Weatherspoon was on keys. And I remember sitting at that, I was in college at the time, and I remember looking at that stage, and at the end of the concert, we walked up and we talked to Maurice and Calvin Rogers after the concert. And I remember telling my friend then, I said, man, it's gonna be us one day. I pointed at the stage and I visualized, it was quick, but I visualized it. I said, man, that's gonna be us one day up there on that stage. And that was it. I mean, I looked at it, I was so inspired from the concert and from everything that I saw. I was like, yeah, that's gonna be us one day. And I kid you not, my very first traveling engagement with a major artist was at the Boutwell Auditorium. And it's like, wow, stuff really does come around full circle. And that was an amazing experience for me, because like I said, that was one of my introductions to traveling with an artist. But it happened to be the first main gig was at that very stage where I said I was going to stand and play. And I didn't necessarily mean I was going to be at the Boutwell Auditorium, but that's why you have to be careful of what you say and know that your words have power. Know that your imagination has power. If you can think, if you can imagine it, God can exceed anything you can ask for, think, or imagine. So put your imagination to work and don't give up. You know what I'm saying? Don't give up when it gets hard. So let me get through a couple of these. Hopefully that little tidbit helps somebody. And y'all let me know if it did by something. I can't see your face. I wish I could, but it's always great. That's why I like meeting you in person, seeing you guys in person. So when I'm talking, I can see, you know what I'm saying? I can see some light bulbs going off and that kind of stuff. Let's see. Explain that improvisation run that you did towards the end. Let's see here. I don't even remember what I did. That kind of stuff. So it was more so built off of that major 7. You know what I'm saying? So I'm building it off of a lot of major stuff, like regular major scale. Going to the 4. So I was in the key of G. I think it was something along that lines. I don't even, forgive me. I don't even remember. So who's that? Jack. Jack is watching from Kenya. What's up, Jack? How long ago did you pick up the bass? CeeLo, I think I've answered this before, but it's all good. I picked up the bass around 15 years old. So you could do the math on that. I'm 37 now. So yeah, I picked up the bass, but here's the thing. I didn't take the bass seriously when I picked it up. I picked it up kind of playing around. Most of you guys know I'm a multi-instrumentalist, as you can see all these other instruments in this room. Uh, but I was a guitar player first. Guitar was like, well, I always say guitar player first, but I guess technically that isn't right. I was playing the drums. I started playing drums, and I was noodling on everything around the same time. Like I was, kind of playing around on all the different instruments at the same time. I didn't just stay on one thing and only play that. I started kind of, once that music bug bit me, I started experimenting with almost everything. So I started playing the guitar around the age of 12, and I picked up bass around the age of 15. I was kind of messing around before then, but I kind of seriously started taking it serious around the age of 15 as far as learning the basics of playing. And I got into more other stuff like keyboards and all that kind of stuff, because the thing is, being a multi-instrumentalist, I played at my home church, and I played more keyboard at the time at my home church. And there was a gospel quartet group that I was traveling with playing the guitar. So it was my two dominant instruments at the time was keyboard and guitar. So bass was always on the back burner. I never really took bass seriously until I got to college. In particular, until I got to like my junior year in college. I started playing a lot more bass. I went to the University of North Alabama, started playing for the gospel choir there, because I was only playing bass for the most part on recordings, and from time to time I would play a gig or two, like a year. Literally, I wasn't playing bass almost at all, other than jamming around at my home church. When my friend and I would have a jam session, I really didn't play bass out. So moving to Alabama around the age of 19, 20, somewhere in there, I started like really digging into bass. So even though I had access to the bass all those years, I wasn't taking it serious. And I really didn't dig in until I moved to Atlanta in 2006. And that's when I got a gig playing bass, because you got to think, for me, my dominant instrument that I was playing was keyboard and guitar. So those were always the instruments I was getting called on. So bass was always in the background. So yeah, that's pretty much where it all came from. I would start playing and practicing and doing all that stuff. Once I moved to Atlanta, I got a gig playing bass. So now I had to really start digging in. So you got to think professionally. I started playing bass professionally just on the bass. I had already been playing everything else, but bass around 2006. And so I landed the New Birth Church gig 2007, like a year after I took bass, really took it serious. And so I had to catch up, do a lot of catching up. And that's kind of my professional career in a nutshell on the bass. And so I would say, as a professional, I started taking the bass serious around 2006. I was already playing, around the age of 15, but I started taking it serious around 2006. I'm sorry for that long answer, but I'm just trying to give you the facts. Because people look at it and they're like, man, you've been playing for a long time. I'm like, but it's complicated. That's my relationship status with the bass. It's complicated. Great job. We need more lessons on playing percussive bass. Thank you. Let's see. Purchased mine 2 days ago. Floyd, man, thank you for purchasing the music. C. Lydian, 4th degree, G major. Right, Mr. Morgan. My dude Christoph is always gonna hit us with the theory. Yes, sir. We're gonna get Christoph to do a class on theory, so we all can come up to his level of understanding. Your ears, man, are amazing, Christoph, that you can pick that stuff out just by hearing it that quick. That's pretty awesome. Hail from the U.S. Virgin Islands. This is very inspirational, man. To God be the glory, Henry. I'm glad that you guys are getting something out of this. And so yeah, that's pretty much it. The tritones lessons. Let me work on that, Kate. I would rather do that in an official lesson where I can kind of really spend time and dig into that. She said she says gospel chops. But yeah, let me spend some time on that. That I would rather I'd rather prepare that and do that in a lesson. You're giving me an idea for my next bass lesson. I don't know if I'm gonna do it right away, but you're definitely giving me ideas. So look for that. If you're not normally watching my channel, do come back. You'll see a lesson on tritones soon. I'll try to get that out. And another thing I try to do as well, Kate, because I don't consider myself a technical guy, I try to give practical things. And if I do a tritones lesson, I'll probably try to give a really, really practical usage for it. I don't like necessarily teaching things because there's so many bass resources. And I'm not saying this in a negative sense, but there's so many bass resources here on YouTube and so many people that's teaching everything. I don't like regurgitating information. You know, I like to give things that or give perspectives on stuff that everybody else are not talking about. You know, I like to give you practical ways that you can use certain things that most people don't teach you in that way. You know, taking the modes and use them in gospel quartet. Who does that? Like, why are we even having this conversation? Because most people take the modes and use them for improvisation. You know what I'm saying? So I'm trying to think of ways that we can use them, or ways that we do use them that we really don't pay attention to. A lot of the gospel cats, we use a lot of these things, but when people start talking about them, I said this on like the last live, when people start talking about certain things that we already do, it sounds a little spooky and it sounds a little foreign to us because we don't use that language when we talk music. We just know, okay, this works, and we don't use that language. So I like to take the spookiness off of certain things that we made spooky or we made complicated in our culture and put it to everyday practical use. So you'll probably see it. I see I missed a comment here. Wow, I missed a couple comments. You are the master. No sir, not at all. Not nowhere close. Tuning in late from Knoxville. Show me your favorite 3 or 4 note group. Have a good one. Fred Oaks, he's tuning in late with the request. Yes sir. Hi guys from Burundi. Is that how you say that? Burundi? What's up to you? I can't. Oh, it's a Jimmy Peter. Okay. All right, so let's dissect some of this song real quick. If you guys don't have any more questions, I'm going to some different parts of this song that I'm playing. You're talking about the improvisational stuff. Let's get into this. So I start this chord on the major 7. Well, actually on the 3, but it's built off that major 7 chord. You know what I'm saying? So I'm in F sharp major. If you want to think of it as G flat, whatever makes you feel better. So that's the chord progression for this song. So that's the whole thing. 1, 7, 3, 6, 2, 5. None of this F sharp major. So yeah, it's F sharp major. Alright, so I start the solo off. All of that was built off the major scale. Okay? 3 to the 5. see what I'm saying? All of that is major pentatonic. It's a major scale and major pentatonic, and you'll find that in a lot of my music. I use a lot of the major pentatonic, all of that stuff. Especially in this particular song. And I enjoy those sounds because I can like really manipulate that when I'm singing. I think for me, in certain songs, especially in a song that's really simple like that, I always try to think like a vocalist. Or try to think, yeah, that's the best way that I can put it. I try to think like a vocalist, and because I do sing, so instead of trying to always complicate stuff and make stuff sound, extra, I do have songs that I do stretch out, and I might go into some more uh, melodically complicated stuff. But for the most part, if I'm playing a solo, I try to make sure it's something that I can also sing. Granted, I can't sing some of these notes as fast as I play, but when I'm thinking of the solo, I want people to be able to sing my solo who are not necessarily musicians. Excuse me, guys, my family is sneezing and doing all that stuff. So yeah, anyway, but I try to think of stuff that somebody can sing. And so if you're trying to get more into improvisation, maybe don't start with just learning all these complicated scales and all this stuff you don't understand. The biggest thing when you're doing improvisation, you want to make sure you understand it so you can properly communicate it. Now, if you understand all these different types of scales and all these arpeggios and they make sense to you, by all means go for it. But I found once I kind of locked in, like I told you guys, my first official solo record, I had been recording before then and putting some stuff out before then, but my first official solo album was like 2011. That wasn't that long ago. Obviously, I worked on that stuff like 2010, 2009, 2008, but I released it in 2011. But as I started learning myself and learning my improvisational style throughout each record and started really understanding how I put stuff together, I found for me, out of all the things I experimented with, and if you listen to my record from like one record to the next, you can hear the evolution, so to speak, of my sound. If you start with The Journey Continues and go to the Life record, all the way up to the Dreams Work Reality record, you can hear the evolution from my the stuff that I play in terms of note choices, tone choices, articulation choices, all that different stuff. And you'll notice on some of the stuff, it's like, depending on the song, I started doing less. I can play more, and it's the craziest thing. I can play faster than I used to play. I can play more notes. I understand way more than I used to. But now my solos, to me, and I could be wrong, this is me listening from my own perspective, I don't think my solos are as complicated as they were 4 or 5 years ago when I was writing music. I think they are a little bit more, I'm not going to say simple because some people might think that's an insult, but I think my solos make a little bit more sense. And that's because I started listening to my own style instead of trying to compete with, I don't think I was trying to compete with anybody, but I was competing with something, because I know I would always be trying to outdo the last thing that I did, or trying to make sure that people knew that I advanced as a player, as opposed to just being honest with who I am. It's like I don't have to prove that I have more chops. This is what I musically want to say in this song. And I think we all fall into that trap from time to time. If we be honest as musicians, you can fall into the trap of wanting to prove that you're good enough. You want to prove that you have improved since the last time we heard. And there's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. But as a composer, you have to make sure that your ability or your skill set or your skill level, hear me clearly, you have to make sure that that doesn't get in the way of the song. That doesn't get in the way of the music. We all love the fact that you could play 1,000 notes per minute. But in this particular song, does it call for that? So even in my song, if another musician took the same exact song, they probably would have something completely different to say. Me being the writer and me hearing it a certain way, I knew that my solo didn't take all that. So here's what I came up with when I decided to play this solo. I'll play it again. So as you can hear with that solo approach was basically, it was pretty simple. The only thing that sounded a tiny bit complicated is that line at the end. And that's like still basic. But to me, it's more so about expressing what the song is saying, as opposed to I could have did a whole bunch of things and played, 1,000 notes per minute, but it didn't seem necessary. Coming out of this solo into the chorus, the chorus, that's very simple. To me, it just makes sense to not overthink it, not overdo it when you're playing it. So even the same thing when we went to the second verse. Let's see if I can get to it. Okay. So in the second verse, let me go back a bit. I know I was. So I played that verse in a way that I open up a little bit more than I did in the first verse, but now I want to lead into the second part. And it's almost like the same way that a vocalist would do. They wouldn't open up at the top of the song and give you all of it. You know what I'm saying? And then also I'm thinking ahead as I'm playing. We're trying to climb to a certain point, and we're going to make a key change in this song. And I also have a trumpet player that's going to play. So I want to give this song room to grow. I want to give this song room to climax. The premise of this song, I'm telling people, don't give up on your dreams, because it's possible. This is not, look at me, look at how many notes I can play at one time. It's more of a song of encouragement. So I want it to be easy listening. I don't want it to be so complicated that it complicates the average listener and they don't want to hear my song. I want the music to reach more than one demographic of people. So I have to be aware of all of this stuff when I'm thinking about the song. And I'm not saying this is the rule for every single song. No, I'm thinking about each song as just that. This is what this song needs. This is what that song needs. Even if you're not a solo player, you should be taking the same approach. Like looking at the music that you're playing, what does this song need? What does this song calls for? Yeah, I know I can do all this fancy stuff, but what does this particular song calls for? And how can I get the most out of this one song? If people only got to hear one song you played, what impression would they be left with if they only heard you play one song? Doesn't matter if you're playing the bass line or soloing or chords, whatever it is you're doing. If they only got to hear you play that one song and it's recorded, how could you make the most out of that moment to make sure that the listener got the epitome of what you're about just by listening to one song? So those are some things I try to keep in mind now as I make music. I want to make things that are meaningful. This is just me personally. So if this ain't a conviction for you, it's all good. I'm not trying to push my personal convictions on you. But me personally, after years of writing and creating so much music, the thing I want to do with music now, and if you hear any of my music, there's always some type of message that I'm trying to get across, even if there are no words in the song. There's some type of feeling that I want the listener to feel. There's some type of something that I'm trying to give off with my playing. Because you can come across certain ways in your playing that sound selfish, that sound cocky, that sound arrogant, and you can also sound confident. There are things you can do that sound very confident. There are things you can do on the flip side that sound very weak, that sound very unsure, that sound very timid. And I've done, especially on the other side of that, in terms of the being unsure, being timid, being sounding like I didn't know what to play, that kind of stuff. It's like I've been on both sides of it, and I don't think I've done well. You know what? Just be honest. I think at some point when we all develop chops and stuff like that, if you're not careful, you can fall in that trap of coming across as cocky, especially when you're really super super confident on something that you know and you're all about proving a point. You can come across that way, and I want to make sure that my music, as I've matured, I want to make sure that it didn't have that on it, because I don't want the listener to experience that from me. I want to make sure that the music stays pure, because it's serving a purpose. And when you can listen to your music and you can listen to the music that you play from the standpoint of this is serving a purpose, because it's powerful. I looked up something the other day. I had no idea about it. Y'all might call me slow. I seen this, but I didn't know it was a thing. I didn't know music therapy was a thing. So some of y'all can comment on that. I know about it now. I researched it, but I had no idea that it was a thing. Even though we do it every week, even though I've been doing it for years, even though that's kind of what I was doing with the special needs students, and I didn't have no idea that it was a. And when I say I didn't know it was a thing, I didn't know it was a field that people were actually studying. I didn't know that. I should have known that, but be that as it may, it is what it is what it is. And so, but that's what it is, exactly what it is. It's therapy for people. So think about it. When you feel a certain type of way, most of the times you put on a certain song. When you're feeling sad, most people put on sad songs. The logic of that makes no sense, because if you're sad, you want to put something on uplifting, but a lot of people want to sulk in the moment. They want to sulk, they want to feel some type of way, or they want to hear a song that reminds them of a person or reminds them of good times, and so that they can really cry or experience whatever emotion that they felt. So music is very, very therapeutic. So obviously that would make sense for a music therapist to be a thing. So being aware of all of that stuff while you're learning to play your instrument, while you're getting better at what you do, you want to be aware that this is therapy. What you're doing is therapy. So it's not always about, a Neapolitan 7 and C Lydian and F dominant and all these chord names. That's great. All the musical terms are great, and you do need that stuff so you can better explain and better understand what it is you're doing. But don't get so caught up in the technicality of the music that you forget it's therapeutic. It's an expression. It's another language. It's how you communicate. It's a form of communication to people. It's a form of communication. Whether it's just for yourself, there's plenty of times I come in here by myself, no camera, no nothing. I don't have an audience, and I have the greatest time in here creating music or just playing, and it's just me. It's just me by myself, because I realize what this music is doing for me, and I don't get caught up in the frustration of trying to play this lick or I used to, but now it's like it's not about that anymore for me. It's not because I'm this great player and I don't have to deal with problems anymore. No, I have problems learning songs from time to time. I have problems learning new techniques and new licks, but I try not to be so consumed with that it gets me to the point where I want to quit. Anytime you're getting to that point where you want to quit, where you think about giving up in music, it's because you have lost focus on what it's really about. It's a communication tool. It's something as an expression that you should be using to express express who you are, express what you feel, express what you want to say musically. It should never be about the money. We as professional musicians, we have to consider, okay, this is, I have to be paid for what I do professionally, but it shouldn't always be all about the money, because when you make the money the prime thing, you lose the love. You lose the passion for it, because now all you're thinking about is, where's my next check coming from? You know, and you lose it. You lose that purity of what it is you're doing. And I never want to lose that again, me personally. I can't speak for everybody else. Yeah, I would love the money. I would love whatever comes with it, but that's not my goal. That's not the main intention of why I do what I do. There's another verse that says, "Give and it shall be given." If you give, if you just open yourself up and pour what you have freely to people, what you need will be there. What you need will be there. The opportunities you need will be there. So if you're not finding opportunities to play and this kind of stuff, start looking at ways that you can be of service to people. You know what I'm saying? If people are not calling you for gigs, start looking at other ways that you can be of some type of service to people with your gift. If you have a gift, if you can do this thing, find somebody that needs some lessons. Start showing them. Start giving away your information that you know. I'm not saying give it all away. You do have to, live. You have to survive. But there should be something you should be giving away from time to time that you don't have to charge everybody for. You know what I'm saying? That way you keep a balance and you don't lose the focus of what it's about, because that gift in itself, being able to give it away, it's rewarding in itself. It's instant gratification when you're able to give it away and you're able to help somebody. You're able to see that light bulb come on for somebody else, like it did for you when you started getting the knowledge and you started getting the revelation, man. So that was touched on the money thing at your shed last Wednesday, James Judah. Wow, man. Michael Brandon, thank you. I didn't even know I had any people from Shed 4 Calls watching that. James Judah, Mike Stamps, and Nate talked about it, including you. Yeah, absolutely, Mike. So it's who is that? The word says a preacher man feeds from the Bible. Why not sing with musicians? I didn't say it, done, but you own it. Hey, and it's just those things. Realize, and let me say this thing. This is what I'm about to say is not popular, and I might watch those numbers go way down after I say this. But you guys, I've seen this so much with musicians and people that I've watched come up over the years. It's like they start out, thank God for my gift. Thank God for my gift. And then after a while, you start seeing a bunch of arrogance, a bunch of cockiness. There's nothing wrong with being confident. If you work your behind off, by all means, embrace who you are, embrace the work that you put in. You should be proud of what you've done. But here's the kicker. Don't get so proud of your own accomplishments that you forget where your gift comes from. I'm not for any moment. I'm super grateful. I worked really hard to be able to play multiple instruments and to be able to have a living from, being a musician. I've been fortunate enough to have a pretty great career as a musician up to this point, and I'm super thankful. And a lot of it was a lot of hard work I put in. I've been at this thing for a long time, but I'm not a fool. I know none of this is because of me only. Because here's the thing I realized: with all my efforts, all my practice, all this kind of stuff, if God doesn't grace me to do what I do, if he doesn't allow his mercy to rest on me to do what I do each day, each morning when I get up, because there's so many people who work their behinds off and they had a stroke or something random and they couldn't use their hands anymore. So if it was all you, that means you should be able to snap back out of it just like that. If it were all, just something for you to think about, and you don't have to agree, it's just something for you to think about. If it were all you, you would be able to fix it. You would be able to set an alarm clock out in a cemetery and make people get up. If it were all us that, we do all this stuff. I did this. I put the work in. I did. I. Be careful not to say I so much. All glory for anything I do on any instrument, anything that's praiseworthy that I do. I can't take the credit for it because I didn't give myself the gift. I don't give myself the ability, because I could very well not be able to hear music the way I hear music. It's a gift to be able to hear it. And if you have that gift, I didn't always play the way I play now. I had to develop that gift, true enough. And you might need just some more development. So don't be so hard on yourself in terms of thinking you're not good enough. You just need a little bit more development. But at the same time, realize where the gift comes from. And as long as we can keep the main thing, you know what I'm saying? As long as we can keep the main thing, understanding that this gift comes from God. Period. It's not popular, but it's facts. This gift comes from God. And when we acknowledge the source of the gift and give it back to Him, He gives us so much more creativity. He gives us so much more endurance, so much more information, so much more wisdom to pour out when we acknowledge that I am not the source. Once I started taking myself out of the picture and stopped depending on my own ability so much, it's like my playing got so much better and it got so much easier for me. Now, I'm not saying when I say it got so much easier, let me be clear on that. That don't mean I was able to just do all the stuff I wanted to do. No, but I still had to work on it. I still had to practice. I still had to, do the necessary things and work through my fears and all of that kind of stuff. But once I started realizing that it wasn't me and I wasn't operating only in my own strength, I was able to relax a little bit more. I was able to hear a little bit more clear. The things would come to me just a little bit more. I start opening my mouth and getting over my fear of singing and getting over my fear of hearing my own voice, getting over my fear of my own thoughts and my own ideas, and getting over the fear of being rejected by other people. When you play for an audience of one, and when I say that, when you play for God and you play to honor Him, at that point, you can kind of really care less about what everybody else think about it. Because if I know the one that gave me the gift is happy with what I'm offering Him from my gift, well, everybody else's opinion really doesn't matter. Even if I only have 2 people watching here from this point on out my videos, that would suck. But at the point, if I know He's pleased, the one that's giving me the gift, the people will come back. They'll come around when it's time. It's a verse that says, "If I be lifted, I'll draw all men." So don't get worried, don't get discouraged if you don't see the people that you're wanting to see right away. If you lift the right one up, you're going to get everything you're looking for and more when you keep the source. When you keep the main source, i.e. Jesus, when you keep Him the source, you let Him be the source, not you, not being prideful in all you know, all you've learned, all you studied. You know what I'm saying? When you allow Him to be the source, then everything else you need will fall into place, including your playing, including gigs that you need. Sometimes you don't even need gigs. Here's another thing, musicians, and I'm telling you guys this from experience. I'm being really, really transparent with you guys this morning, so I really hope this helps somebody. Sometimes trusting God and standing on what you know to be true, regardless of what everybody else thinks about it, it will save you. It will keep you. Where you thought you needed gigs to do this, and man, especially if you're up in age and you have a family and I got to pay my light bill this week. It's like, but nobody's calling me for a gig. God will call somebody to think about you and to be a blessing to you, and you didn't even have to play. This didn't even have to get pulled out of the case, and you'll get exactly what you need, down to the T. Everything you need, you'll get it. And I'm not telling you this again. I'm not telling you any fairy tales. I'm telling you stuff that I know for fact happens with an S in my own life. So don't get caught up in the hype. You can believe what you want to. This is not me trying to force anything on anybody. I'm just telling you my facts. These are my facts. If you keep the main thing, you're gonna be good. So I hope this has encouraged somebody. If you're on the verge, I know holiday season is a tough time for a lot of people, especially musicians who suffer in silence. You guys suffer a lot in silence, and people don't know because we wear a smile. We're able to do something we love, so it's easy to hide behind a gig or hide behind the gift because we love what we do. And when we're having a good time, nobody knows that you've been contemplating suicide all week at your home, because this gig is fun and you're in the groove, so nobody can see on your face that after that gig is over with You still thinking about suicide because you can't afford your rent, or you can't afford to pay for your car, or whatever your scenario is. This is a real thing, and I understand the time of year it is, and I understand these are real issues that people deal with, and nobody wants to talk about it. We all avoid them, and then everybody want to have this big discussion on Facebook when somebody passes away or takes their own life, when we don't talk about the things. Don't get caught up in your own ability. Don't get caught up in your own hype, because that can keep you away from that big fall that causes you to feel like taking your own life or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't make yourself the source. When you make yourself the source, that means your resource or your source, you take it away, and you made that yourself. And when you can't perform, now you're overwhelmed, and now you're depressed. When you can't do all the things that you gave yourself the responsibility to do. Handle your business the way you're supposed to do, and be wise about your decisions. But understand God is the source, y'all. Understand that He is the source. And as long as you're doing what you're supposed to do before Him, you will be straight. You will be fine. You don't have to panic. If you don't get a gig this week, you don't have to go to panic mode. If you don't get a gig for a month, God is the source. I've seen guys that have been sick, like, I'm talking about, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like the sickness that you can die from. I can't even think of the word right now. But guys that have been sick unto death, and so they couldn't work. They were out of work. But some kind of way, God took care of them, and He took care of their families. And they weren't able to use their gift. They weren't able to work and do anything, but it worked out for them. So again, I'm stressing this point, and I really hope nobody's getting offended, but I can't help that. If you get offended from this, that's not on me. That's on you. Because I know there are more people who need to hear the truth. And that is the truth. When you take yourself away from being the source and allow God to be the source, and you just get in line with that, you know what I'm saying? When you get in line with the source, you'll be straight. Because I'm tired of hearing about musicians committing suicide and killing themselves and just taking their own. I'm saying the same thing, but I know people, and just to see people who are hopeless, especially in this season, because we got family issues that you're dealing with, you got relationship issues, custody issues for you parents that are out there and maybe separated from your significant other. I know you guys are dealing with a lot of stuff. Put that stuff in God's hand. You know what I'm saying? Don't take that problem on by yourself. It's not yours to take on. And if He gave you the problem, He's equipped you with the right stuff to handle it and to get through it. But you can't take on the weight of being the source. You have to keep Him the source. And what do I mean by keep saying, make God the source? Make God, what does that even mean? It's a verse that says, in all your ways acknowledge Him. It's Proverbs, I think, 3 and 5. In all your ways, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not to your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will direct your path. Don't lean to your own understanding. Trust in God. Even if you don't fully understand all that God stuff and all that God talk, just trust it anyway. Just trust it and pray for revelation. Pray for understanding that regardless of what I'm dealing with right now, regardless of what I'm faced with right now, I know He's going to give me the wisdom that I need to handle this problem. He's going to give me the insight, the direction that I need to navigate this next move in my life, to navigate where I have to go, to navigate the people that I need to talk to. He's going to put me in contact with the next person that's going to call me for the next gig or the next life-changing situation. I've told my story many a times. When I landed one of the biggest gigs of my career, I was in a place serving, not making any money. Playing the bass, not making any money, and serving. And that call for the gig that I really needed to change my life came through the very person that I was serving in a big city like Atlanta. So just let that marinate for a while. So trust God, y'all. I don't mean to keep going on with that, but I know somebody needed to hear this. Even if it's only one person that got it this morning, it was worth it. It was worth losing some subscribers to tell the truth, because that's more important to me. So again, all of this being said, don't give up. Don't give up wherever you are, wherever you find yourself at in this season. Don't give up. You know what I'm saying? It's possible. Hold on to whatever that dream is you have. If you have a dream to be a professional musician, you could be a professional musician. Somebody wants what you do. And some of y'all need to hear that this morning. Somebody wants what you do. Somebody wants your little bit of plan, the little bit you can do. Somebody want to hear it. If you're sitting on the fence about an album and you've been hearing stuff all these years and you haven't developed it, get busy. Do it. Don't take these ideas to the grave. Miles Monroe has a quote that says, "The wealthiest place on earth is the cemetery." There you'll find all these unrealized dreams. You'll find the greatest paintings that were never painted. You'll find the greatest songs that were never sang or recorded. You'll find the greatest books that were never written. You'll find $1 million movies that were never recorded. Like, that's the wealthiest place on earth, the cemetery. So stop sitting on all of these gifts that you have, waiting for the perfect time or waiting till your skill level improves. If you go back and listen to my Journey Continues album, when I listen to it, there are a lot of cuts on there. They're all good songs, don't get me wrong. But listening now from where I'm at in terms of my playing to then, even while I was recording, I felt like I wasn't good enough to do it. But the fact of the matter is, I done it. I got finished with it. And I grew from that record to the next record. From that next record to this record. You know, it's like I grew from each thing that I did. It's a process, but you have to start the process in order to grow. God bless you, man. I feel like you were talking specifically to me today, man. Bless God, CeeLo. It's the slow time of the year for us musicians here in Oklahoma, but I'm doing okay. Been lucky here lately. Connor, it's that way everywhere, man. It's slow. Unless you're on a corporate, scene, whatever the case may be, it happens. Winter comes for everybody, and the winter is not just the season, the physical season. We go through seasons as people, you know what I'm saying? Winter, spring, summer, fall. You just have to prepare in those seasons to be able to handle the tough seasons. Spring and fall, spring and summer, we all love. But fall and winter is like, if you're a cold-natured person, physically speaking, you like, I like it when it's cold. But when we're talking figuratively, we don't really like the winter. You know, when stuff slows down, it goes cold for you in terms of your career. You're not getting the calls that you need to get. You get cutbacks at your main gig. They're not paying you what they used to pay you. So you're having to supplement that income. You're having to tighten up around, so it gets hard for everybody. But being able to learn how to manage, how to properly manage, you get more of what you manage. And what you don't manage, you will lose. So manage properly in the seasons that you're having, your summer and your spring, so when you get to your fall and your winter, you can survive. And a lot of that management comes here first, mentally, managing your mind mentally. So when you get to those seasons, you know that, you know what, God provided for me all throughout January, February, March, April, May, June, July. So surely for the rest of the year, he's definitely going to provide for me. You know what I'm saying? You don't lose focus. You don't lose thought of that while you're doing the necessary things like managing your money, trying to save something if you possibly can. If you're not in a situation where you can save, doing the things that you can do, you know what I'm saying, until you get to that point. So sorry guys, didn't mean to go on all of that rant and all that stuff, but I do believe that this has been helpful for somebody. If you find this helpful, share this video with somebody. Share this video with somebody that need it. And remember, as I get off of here, don't give up on your dreams. It's possible. All right, y'all, I'm signing off. Thank you all so much for hanging around. Seemed like I had a pretty consistent audience this morning, so thank you all. You quiet, but thank y'all for hanging around and watching this video. I pray blessings on you and your family during this season. If you're going through a tough time, I pray that God gives you every single thing that you need in abundance and you go lacking for nothing. And yeah, I'll be back on next week. Y'all take care. I'm out. Peace.